Good morning and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for a special edition of House Calls, Real Docs, Real Talk. I'm Shannon Powell Hart and I am your new host, and I'm so excited to be joining the House Calls team from my home right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm sure you can see that is what we're doing, House Calls, so that's why I'm coming from this area. After many years in journalism, I am so excited to be lending my talents and getting educated through the American Heart Association. So I'm excited to be here with you today. So enough about me. Today we're going to talk about what we're discussing, and it is everyone's favorite topic: special surprise medical bills. And I do mean surprise. So we have a question for you. You can go, if you have a question for us, you can go to heart.org/housecalls and submit your question or drop it in the comments during the show. That's just one of our housekeeping tips, and we will do our very best to grab those and answer as many as we can throughout the show. So remember, we rely on audience involvement. So today we have two requests. First, throughout the show, we will break for a few questions, and we ask that you respond using our easy text to answer feature. All you have to do is text AHA live to 22333. Now, we won't ask for your name or any information. It's just a fun and easy way to answer. You should see the instructions right there on your screen right now. Okay, and after you do that, we want you to hit the share button or start a watch party, whatever's easiest for you. So you can share the stream with your friends and family. And we have a lot of friends coming from all over the world: Portugal, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. I saw someone joining us from Kuwait. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started as we say hello to everyone. And with me this morning is Dr. Bill Borden. He's the Chief Quality and Population Health Officer at George Washington University Medical Faculty Associates. Welcome, Dr. Borden. How are you today?
Hi, Shannon. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you, because we are talking about those surprise medical bills. So everybody wants to hear everything that you have to say. Now, before we begin our discussion today, let's start with our first viewer response question. Okay, here it is. Have any of you ever received a surprise medical bill? Yes or no? So go ahead and respond right now. A surprise medical bill. A, yes. B, no. C, not personally, but I know someone who has. And remember, all you got to do is text your answer. The number to call, the number to text is 22333. So make sure you're doing that, and we will definitely make sure we get back to that. Okay, 100%. Everybody is saying, yes, I have received a surprise medical bill. And I have to be honest, I don't know if I'm that surprised by that answer. So let's get started with our very first segment. Okay, each week we select one current headline that ties back to the topic we are discussing during the show, and we ask our expert to respond. This week's entry is from Forbes.com, and it's called Ending Surprise Medical Bills the Right Way. Okay, Dr. Borden, I'm sure you've had some thoughts on this. I read that article, and they said that I think 43% of people who go to the hospital will get a surprise medical bill.
Yeah. Now, Shannon, that's exactly right. And it's really unfortunate. These surprise medical bills are ones that come unexpectedly. So they can come when you inadvertently end up seeing a provider or going to a hospital that's not in your insurance network, or that it's an emergency situation. You really had no say in the matter, and you're brought to a hospital or seeing a doctor that's not in your network. And then your insurance company sticks you with a bill for out-of-network coverage, which can run into the hundreds, thousands of tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh my gosh. And that is more stressful than being in the emergency room or having to go to the hospital when you start getting those types of bills.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone who is experiencing a heart attack, stroke, or really any sort of complication, their thought needs to be on how do I best get myself well? How do I get this treated? Not thinking about these financial implications. And then once someone's home and they're recovering, they shouldn't be stuck with these large bills that come their way that are really a surprise. People think that they've got insurance, they think this is covered, and it comes unexpectedly.
Yeah. And you definitely want the person to get well and financially to be okay as well. So this is a hot topic. It's very important. And so it's time for You Ask, We Answer, where we address your health concerns live. As we are talking today, you can submit your questions in the comments section or submit them to heart.org/housecalls. Okay, if you missed our past shows or just want to refer back to them, visit the House Calls website at heart.org House Calls, where you can find all previous episodes all in one place. Okay, so let's jump into this. This week's topic is surprise medical bills. Our very first question comes to us from Lawrence in Oklahoma City. Lawrence wants to know, okay, Dr. Borden, what are surprise medical bills? Explain that to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, surprise medical bills, as I mentioned, are someone has insurance and they have their in-network insurance, and so they know that they may have to look and see, for a provider or hospital that's in their network. And then either they, without their knowing, are seen by a provider who's not in their network, or it's an emergency situation and they're brought to another hospital or another provider. And then through the insurance company, they get these surprise bills that either because person unknowingly or in this emergency situation saw someone who was out of their network. And then they're stuck with really a very large bill later that can be financially devastating. And so it's really unacceptable.
I guess the bigger question is coming from Marcia from Sherman Oaks, and she is asking, how do patients end up getting these bills? I think you kind of explained it, but shouldn't we know about it ahead of time?
Sure. So there are a couple ways that this can happen. A person can be doing all of their homework. They can check their in-network providers, and sometimes those lists are outdated. So even doing all of your homework, you may end up seeing a provider or going to a hospital or facility that's not in your network, even though you've checked everything. The second way could be that you see a provider that maybe is in your network and you didn't know that you were seeing that provider. And this comes up for people not infrequently when they go to a hospital that's in network and they're seeing a surgeon that's in network, and then maybe the anesthesiologist that they see is not in network. And so that anesthesia bill comes up as being out of network, and the insurance companies won't pay for it as an in-network bill, even though someone's done, they think, all of the right steps to avoid that. And then the last case, as I mentioned, is in that emergency situation. In that situation, of course, if it's an emergency, you call 911, you go to your nearest emergency department. But when you do that, you shouldn't then be stuck with a bill for having to take an ambulance to the local emergency department.
And Dr. Borden, when you're in an emergency situation, checking to see who's in network and who's not in network is not your priority at that time.
Absolutely. I think that the emphasis here is, we need a solution to this through Congress. Each of us individually, if it's an emergency, get that emergency taken care of. Call 911, get yourself taken care of. Don't let the concern of these surprise bills stand in the way of you getting treated for a heart attack, stroke, or any other condition. And then if it's a non-emergency, making sure that you check with your insurance, making sure that you know who who will be seeing you, what hospital will be, are they in network, and are there any other providers perhaps at that hospital who are not in network so that you can be aware ahead of time?
I think this kind of plays into Jan. She's in Portland, and her question has to do with how does this impact patients with heart disease and stroke?
Mhm. Yeah, no, this unfortunately really impacts people with heart attack and stroke, because all too often people with heart attacks and stroke, these are in emergency situations, and so they need emergency care, and so they don't know if the ambulance is going to take them to an ER or hospital that's in their network or not. And then after that emergency, they're recovering at home, and then they can unexpectedly get these large bills to pay. There are over 800,000 cardiovascular events that happen outside of the hospital each year. And, when that's the case, people really need to focus on getting the treatment that they need, and not having to worry about the finances of the surprise medical bills that might come their way, but rather to take care of their health and get treated.
Because we all know the most important thing is to get the treatment that you need, especially if there's an emergency. You need that care, and cost can't be your priority at all.
Absolutely. And this is something that, the American Heart Association has been advocating for really strongly, for over 2 years now, to get a legislative change to try and protect our patients from these surprise bills and making healthcare more affordable.
Okay, we're going to talk about that, but right now we're going to take a really quick break for another poll question. I really love these poll questions. Grab your phone and get ready to text in your answer. As a reminder, just text AHA live to 22333. And once you do that, our question is, how likely are you to go to the emergency room during this pandemic? Now, A, I would absolutely go to an emergency room, or B, I would absolutely not go to an emergency room, and C, I'm not sure. And Dr. Borden, I thought about this.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is saying, ooh, wow. So far, they're saying I would absolutely go because it is an emergency. A few people are saying I don't go to the ER or fear for the cost, but the numbers are still coming in. So while we wait on answers, let me take this opportunity to remind everybody about scientific sessions in November. Time is flying by, so don't forget to register. It's a virtual event this year, so no excuses to miss it. As you know, Scientific Sessions is the American Heart Association's premier event of the year. Now, it is offering the latest research to keep you prepared to meet today's health challenges. Okay, here's a quick video to help you register. All right, that is coming up in November, but I want to take a look at this poll. Dr. Borden, looks like we've got some really good answers. Some people are saying, I would absolutely go to the ER. I don't go to the ER for fear of cost. So I don't even know if the pandemic has anything to do with this. What do you suggest? Because it feels like going to the ER should be reserved for those who are suffering from COVID-19.
Yeah, so I would really encourage everyone here that if you have an emergency, if you have some serious concern, go to the emergency room. Don't be afraid because of COVID about going to the emergency room. The hospitals, emergency departments around the country have put into place safety protocols to make sure that you are safe in going to the emergency department. People have the right protective equipment on. They've got you to be protected. And the last thing in the world we would want to see is someone dying from a heart attack or stroke because they were afraid of COVID-19 and not going to the emergency department. Shannon,
Right.
what really concerns me is, this 25% of people who wouldn't go to the ER because of fear of cost. I think that's it's a travesty. And, I understand why they respond that way. I absolutely do. And that's all the more reason why we need to have a fix to these surprise medical bills.
Oh, well, I will tell you, we had a medical emergency with my 5-year-old last year, and cost was the last thing on my mind. And I did get some surprise medical bills, but I will tell you, if it happened today, we would call 911 and I'd want to go to the best hospital here in the DFW area. So I'm with you when it comes to cost. Your life is not worth it. Our life is not worth it. Okay, so real quick, we've got a demographic question to ask, which might affect your access to healthcare and the likelihood of a surprise bill. Which of the following best describes the area where you live? A, an urban or city area. B, in a suburban area next to a city. In a small town or rural area. That's kind of an odd question, Dr. Borden. I mean, I've lived in all these areas and I felt like I was in an area that had good medical and healthcare, but how do the two relate?
Yeah. Well, it's a separate topic that, we've been struggling with nationwide, I think is, the disparities and equities in healthcare that we see around the country. And, this is both in rural and in urban areas. But I think, to the topic of surprise medical billing, where it may come in to play is that you may not have options based on the hospital or the doctors that are in your area, whether they're in your insurance network or not. Or, as we've discussed, if you call 911, an ambulance may bring you, if there is, several hospitals nearby, they may bring you to the one that is not in your network. And that's where you end up getting one of these surprise medical bills.
So are you surprised by the numbers in this poll? When people are talking about where they live and how it may even relate to their health care?
Sure, sure. Well, I think, this probably, maps to where people are living in the country. But I think what it shows is that, we have Americans living in all parts of the country. And so we need to make sure that we have mechanisms in place that everyone has access to healthcare and to achieve, high quality health outcomes, and to do it in an affordable way so that they're not stuck with, bills and financial situations that really put strain on their entire lives.
Mm. So for those of you who don't know, we are talking about surprise medical billing. So we want to address a few more viewer questions. Here is one that is coming from Greg in New Hampshire. Has COVID-19 impacted surprise billing, Dr. Borden?
Yeah. So, the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely impacted where all of us receive our care. And, depending upon, what the phase of the pandemic is, where you live, may impact it more or less. And the ways that this is impacting things are, one, that we are seeing with cardiovascular disease, people developing cardiovascular complications of COVID-19. And then two is that when they seek care, some hospitals may be full because of the COVID-19 pandemic, or there may be some diversion that's in place, or someone just may feel more comfortable going to a particular hospital because of COVID-19. And so I think it just increases the likelihood that that someone might experience one of these surprise medical bills. In addition, we're starting to see cases, and we're hearing these stories from patients of people who have COVID-19 tests, and they're getting bills for those tests, even though those should be covered. Our key message here, though, is get the care that you need, particularly with COVID-19, get the testing that you need. And for any non-COVID-19 conditions like heart disease and stroke, make sure you get that care, even in this situation where you might get surprise medical bills, and doing the best you can to do your homework. But your health is of the foremost importance.
I agree. Dr. Borden, here is the big question. This is the one I've been dying to ask you, and it's coming from Alice. She's in Michigan, and she wants to know, what do patients do if they get one of these surprise medical bills?
Yeah. Um, it's a great question, and it really varies from case to case. Unfortunately, sometimes there's not a lot that can be done. And I know that this can put a tremendous strain on people, and that's really unacceptable. In some cases, the inability to pay the bills leads to, inability to pay mortgage or rent, or sometimes even, paying for food. I think that, the main thing to do is to, bring this to your insurance company, advocate for yourself, continue pushing on this to say, that this really should be covered. And once you get one of these bills, that's sort of your best recourse.
Dr. Bourne, it sounds like this is important to the medical community as well.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, our priority is around people having access to healthcare and getting their conditions treated, whether these are chronic conditions or acute conditions. And if, something like fear of surprise bills is keeping people away, then that's not good. That's only going to lead to complications and worse health for people. In addition, it's important to us that people aren't saddled with these tremendous bills and these financial problems after that they're hospitalized for a condition that they need to be treated for. It is really important to the medical profession that our patients are taken care of, both in terms of their health, as well as their financial health.
Okay, so that leads us to our final question. It's coming from Cindy. She's in Phoenix. And her question is, what can be done to end this practice? Maybe just one bill, or to know how many bills will come to you.
Yeah. So this requires congressional action. So we need a law passed to end this surprise medical billing. And there are several bills around in Congress. There are a lot of great ideas floating around for really sort of comprehensive and bipartisan. So this is on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, who are supporting these efforts to really shield patients from these surprise bills and making healthcare affordable, making sure that everyone gets the care that they need when they need it. The White House has recently signed an executive order encouraging congressional action, but that doesn't solve this. We need congressional action, and Congress really needs to act now to protect all of our health in these situations.
Are there any questions that people can ask when they're at the hospital or in an emergency situation? Maybe there's a family member that can advocate. What should they be asking at this point?
Yeah. So I think the question would be, asking sort of, with the registration, the administrative people, is this hospital, is this emergency department in my network? Are the physicians that I'm seeing, are they in my network? Those are the questions that can be asked in order to know if this will be covered by their insurance.
My question is, should people be talking about this before there's a situation where there's an emergency or hospitalization? And I ask that because after my son's medical emergency last year, we had hard conversations in our house about our health, myself and my husband, as well as my daughter, and what we should be doing if my son faces the same situation. So should we be doing something ahead of time?
Mhm. So I think, we should all be familiar with our own health insurance benefit. And I would like just to make a pause here, which is, many people don't have health insurance, which is another issue, in terms of bills that people can get, and is also a real travesty. And so I think, trying to improve access to healthcare all around with making sure that everyone has good quality health insurance is important. In terms of the surprise medical billing, is familiarize yourself with it. Make sure that your insurance company is providing you with the latest registry of the in-network physicians and hospitals in your area, and so that you know that. And so if you're going into something elective, making sure that you're checking that before you're seeing that doctor or going to that hospital. In the emergency settings we've talked about, you need to seek that emergency medical care. And that's the most important thing. And then having that awareness that if later on, if there are things that are more elective and it's not in your network, that you can address this. But I think, one of the challenges here is that, none of us are insurance experts, and this is complicated. And so this really shouldn't be so challenging for, for each and every one of us as patients to try and sort through all of this. The burden is really great, and it ought not to be that way.
Okay, very good advice. Very, very good advice. So now it is time to get to our audience involved with some topical questions. And one of those topical questions, it involves exactly what we're talking about. And to do that, I want to make sure that our audience is getting involved. If you've been with us throughout the day, you already know what to do. Go ahead and grab your phones now and get ready to text your answer to 22333. And this goes right back to what we were just talking about. We want to know which statement best sums up your health insurance coverage. A, I'm covered by private insurance. B, I am covered by Medicare and Medicaid. C, I can't afford health coverage at this time. And D, I'm covered by Affordable Care Act. And go ahead and text in your answer. Dr. Bourne, I have to be honest with you. I've been in all four of those situations in my adult lifetime. And it's a little scary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think that being without health insurance for anybody, but particularly if you have, chronic medical condition or health concerns, is incredibly scary. And, you wake up every day wondering, am I going to be, find myself in a situation where I'm going to have health bills because I don't have health insurance that then, can lead in some cases to bankruptcy. So again, it just kind of emphasizes the point of how important it is for people to have health insurance.
Okay. Look at those numbers. A number of people, they're already covered 75%, but you do have a few people who have no insurance. You have some that are with the Affordable Care Act. Are those numbers kind of typical?
Yeah. It's sort of not quite typical. I think that, this our audience today, our wonderful audience today, has quite a bit of private insurance relative to numbers that we see, across the country. But I think that, what's really concerning to me is that, 7, 8, 9% or so, the numbers, adapting a little bit, that can't afford any health coverage at this time. Those are people that, we as a country need to do a better job in terms of helping them to have that coverage so that they have the health that they are entitled to.
All right. Dr. Warren, thank you for that. And one more, our last audience question. How can the American Heart Association help in the practice of surprise medical bills? A, more advocacy with elected officials, more shows like house calls. I agree with that. More advocacy with insurance company. And D, all of the above. Dr. Bourne, can you give us an idea of what's going on your end? How can the American Heart Association help?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Shannon, as I had mentioned before, the AHA has been actively involved in this space for a couple of years now and really advocating for people so that we can get some solution here to the surprise medical bills. So they are working with our elected officials to advocate on this and have been active in several of these bills that are in Congress right now. One of the things that I think is most powerful are each of our individual stories. So stories about how we've been personally affected by something like surprise medical bills. This is something that our legislators, our elected officials listen to because, we can look at numbers and statistics and all of that, but it doesn't ever tell the story in the same way that someone's individual experience does. And that's why the AHA has led this effort with a campaign with the hashtag #IWasBilled, where people can share their individual stories. And so I would encourage you that if you have that a story, an experience where you've had that, share that with that hashtag #IWasBilled, to share that story so that we can continue fighting to end this practice of surprise medical bills through congressional action.
All right. Dr. Borden, thank you so much. It really sounds like it just takes a number of steps and everyone just really getting involved to make sure this is no longer happening. So I appreciate everything that you have, all the information you've given us today. You've even given me some insight on what to do just in case anything happens. Hopefully nothing happens, but you're talking to people from all over the world, and I'm sure everyone wants to know, what can I do? How can I be an advocate? And you are surely making sure that we understand that. Not a light topic to talk about, one that I have to say, I wasn't sure that the medical community was aware of it because you're so busy saving lives. But I'm really glad that we have doctors like you all over the world who want to make sure we're not only healthy, but make sure that, we don't have a heart incident getting the bill a little bit later. All right. Thank you so much. I know I've received a few in the past, and now I am better equipped to take care of that. And before we leave, just really, I want to just ask, is there any good news you can leave us with? I always like to leave on a positive note. So what can you tell me that's good, actions that consumers can take besides what you've given us already today?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that, that there is a lot of good actions that, came out of the Affordable Care Act around protecting people with pre-existing conditions like cardiovascular disease and ensuring that they have health coverage that, I hope will continue and so important for so many people. And I think that, there is a movement towards greater transparency around the cost of healthcare, which I think is so important. And then the last thing I would say on the surprise medical billing is that this is bipartisan. So this is not and shouldn't be a political issue. This is around, shielding people from these surprise bills. This is around protecting each and every one of our health as well as our financial well-being. So I think that there's room to be optimistic, but I think we need to keep fighting, and we need to make sure that Congress passes this legislation to protect each and every one of us.
All right. Dr. Borden, thank you so much for your time this morning. Please stay safe. And the next time I am up in the DC area, I am actually going to come and look for you.
Well, thank you, Shan. Thanks for having me, and thanks to the audience. And I hope that everyone stays safe and healthy. Be well.
All right. Thank you. Before we sign off, we have one more thing to share with you, and that is our weekly health hack. Stories of the Relentless, the American Heart Association's podcast. Go to heart.org, iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play to find it. And here's a sneak peek at a recent episode highlighting income inequality.
So you have these pervasive pockets of poverty. And with these pervasive pockets of poverty come all sorts of perpetual social determinants of health problems aligned. And what people really don't understand is how difficult it is to be poor in New York City. Being poor in New York City, and in particular in the South Bronx, is a full-time job. And we're trying to alleviate some of that burden for parents, for teachers, for schools, and most importantly for children, because they show up every day anxious and eager to learn.
Okay, this week's health hack comes to us from Robert. Now, Robert's found some new ways to keep his kids active indoors. This helps to break up the day and break up online school day. He suggests, okay, number one, blow up a balloon, set up a makeshift court, and have your child run back and forth to keep the balloon in the air. Okay, the goal is to see how long they can keep it afloat. And the second health hack, he suggests an old time but actually very fun hula hoop for a great cardio workout. It helps with coordination and improves focus and concentration. Robert, these are great tips if you are watching. And I will tell you, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and those health hacks, we will be doing those this weekend at my house because they're easy, they're fun, they're inexpensive, but I can wear them out going back and forth, either in the backyard or even here in the house. This will keep them busy for a long time. So thank you so much, Robert. I'll bet those suggestions have been put to good use over the past few months for those of you who have thought of it. So thanks again for those health hacks. Now remember, we feature a new tip each week. So if you have a great idea, send it to heart.org/housecalls, and maybe you'll see your idea live on the show. And don't forget, there are always more questions than we have time to answer live. If you didn't get yours answered, we'll work to answer as many as we can on the house calls after the show. You can also find it every Thursday on YouTube. Okay, well, this was my first show, and it was quite the experience. The best part is I learned so much from Dr. Borden. I hope you learned a great deal. I want to thank everyone from across the globe that has tuned in. I was so excited to see those from Kuwait, those from Los Angeles, those from Portugal, which I've been there and love it. They were there. You had great questions. I hope you got some great information about surprise medical bills. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, you can find any of our previous shows at heart.org/housecalls. And for any questions we did not get to, again, the house call after show will be online for viewing a little bit later in the week, usually on Thursday. So again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you got valuable information that will help you fight against those surprise medical bills, or to make sure you know what questions to ask if you have a medical emergency, or you're going to the hospital, or you go to the doctor's office. It's happened to me, but thanks to Dr. Borden, it doesn't necessarily have to happen to you, or you can be better prepared to address the situation. All right, so have a great day, and we'll see you right back here next week.
Home is meant to be our safe place, but heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. Don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. Don't stay silent, and don't stay home. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Learn more about house calls, Real Docs, Real Talk, and submit your questions at heart.org/housecalls.